I remember the exact moment I died. It was raining. Not normal rain, black rain, the kind that burned your skin if you stood in it too long. I was lying on the third floor of a collapsed shopping mall, my left leg pinned under a concrete beam. The bone had snapped 2 hours ago. I had stopped screaming about an hour after that. Not because the pain went away, because my throat gave out. Below me, through the cracks in the floor, I could see them. Infected. Hundreds of them. They used to be people. Shoppers, cashiers, security guards, normal people doing normal things on a normal Tuesday afternoon. Then the sky turned red, the black rain started, and within 6 hours, half the population of Incheon had turned into something that was not human anymore. The infected did not run. They walked, slowly, steadily, endlessly. Their skin was gray, their eyes were milky white, and they were strong. I watched a woman who used to be a convenience store clerk tear a car door off its hinges with her bare hands. I had survived 47 days. That was longer than most. I survived because I was careful, because I was smart, and because I was willing to do things that I hated myself for. I stole food from a family with children because I was starving. I left a man behind when the infected swarmed our hideout because saving him would have killed us both. I killed 3 living humans who tried to take my supplies at gunpoint. 47 days. And now I was going to die because a ceiling collapsed and I could not lift a concrete beam off my own leg. The infected were climbing the stairs. I could hear their footsteps, slow and shuffling. They had smelled me. The blood from my leg was dripping through the cracks in the floor, leaving a trail that led straight to me. I closed my eyes. I was 24 years old, Lee Jae-hyun, college dropout, convenience store night shift worker, no family, no girlfriend, no savings, no future even before the apocalypse. Now, no life. The first infected reached the 3rd floor. I could hear it breathing, a wet, rattling sound, like lungs full of water. I opened my eyes one last time. Through the shattered window, I could see the city, burning. The skyline I had grown up with was gone, replaced by smoke and red sky and silence. Then, everything went white. I woke up screaming. My body lurched upright and I swung my arms at nothing. My fists hit a pillow, soft, clean, white. I was in a bed, a real bed, with sheets and a blanket and a headboard. There was a window to my right, and through it I could see a street, a normal street, cars parked along the curb, a woman walking a dog, a delivery truck idling at a stoplight. No black rain, no infected, no fire. My phone was on the nightstand. I grabbed it. The screen showed the date. March 14th, the apocalypse started on March 20, honest. I had 7 days. My hands were shaking, my whole body was shaking, my brain was trying to process 2 completely contradictory sets of information. I had memories of 47 days in hell, starvation, violence, death. I could still feel the concrete beam on my leg. I could still hear the infected climbing the stairs, but I was here. In my apartment. 7 days before any of it happened. My leg was fine, my body was intact. My convenience store uniform was hanging on the back of my chair where I had left it last night. Then I heard it, a chime in my head. Ding! Regression system activated. Host has been returned to 7 days before apocalypse event. Mission: survive the second apocalypse. Starting bonus: apocalypse knowledge. Host retains all memories from first timeline. Additional bonus: preparation interface unlocked. A blue panel appeared in my vision. It showed a countdown timer. Days until apocalypse: 7 hours, 16 minutes, 42. Below the timer was a menu. Preparation interface. I tapped it mentally. Categories: shelter, supplies, weapons, allies, intelligence. Each category had a progress bar at 0%. Below the categories was a note. System evaluation at apocalypse start. Higher preparation scores unlock stronger survival abilities. Recommended minimum: 40% overall preparation. I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the panel for a long time. Then I did something I had not done in 47 days. I cried, not from sadness, from relief, from terror, from the overwhelming weight of knowing exactly what was coming and having exactly 1 week to prepare for the end of the world. I let myself cry for 10 minutes. Then I wiped my face, stood up, and opened the system interface. 7 days, 16 hours, 42 minutes, time to get to work. Day 1, 6 days and 14 hours remaining. The first thing I needed was money. Not the kind of money I had, which was 340,000 won in my bank account, roughly $260. I needed real money. The kind that could buy a truck full of supplies in 6 days. In my first life, I had no money and no plan. I had survived the first hours of the apocalypse by pure luck, hiding in the back room of the convenience store where I worked while the infected tore through the streets outside. Everything I had in those 47 days was scavenged, stolen, or fought for. This time would be different. This time I had 7 days of normal civilization left, and I intended to use every second. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. 340,000 won. I opened my credit card app. Available credit, 2,000,001. In 7 days, the world would end. Credit card debt was not going to matter. I maxed out my credit card immediately. I applied for 2 more credit cards online using the instant approval services that Korean banks offered. Both approved within an hour. Combined available credit, 7,500,001. About $5,700. It was not a fortune, but in a world where most people would be caught completely unprepared, it was enough. I made a list, not on paper. In my head. I had learned in the first timeline that written plans could be stolen, mental plans could not. Priority 1, shelter. My apartment was on the 6th floor of a 12-story residential building in a suburban district of Incheon. In the first timeline, this building became a death trap within 48 hours. The infected filled the stairwells. The elevators stopped working when the power grid failed. People on the upper floors were trapped. I needed a better location. Somewhere defensible, with multiple exits, access to water, and far enough from population centers that the initial wave of infected would not reach it immediately. I knew exactly where to go. During the first timeline, around day 30 I had found an abandoned building outside the city that I wished I had known about from the start. A private storage facility on the outskirts of Incheon, near the industrial district. 3 stories, concrete construction, metal rolling doors that could be locked from inside, a flat roof with 360-degree visibility, and most importantly, a deep well in the basement that the previous owner had drilled for industrial use. The facility had been for sale for 2 years. Nobody wanted it because the location was inconvenient for residential use, but for surviving an apocalypse, it was perfect. I called the real estate agent listed on the property. A bored-sounding woman answered. She was surprised anyone was calling about that building. In an hour, I was standing in front of it. It was exactly as I remembered from the first timeline. 3 stories of reinforced concrete. The rolling metal doors were rusted but solid. The basement had the well, which I tested by lowering a bucket on a rope. Clear water came up. The roof was flat and accessible by an internal staircase. How much? I asked. The agent looked at me with barely concealed skepticism. I was a 24-year-old in a convenience store uniform asking about buying commercial property. She quoted 180 million won, about $137,000. Way beyond my means. I offered her 5 million won for a 6-month lease. She laughed. I raised it to 7 million, nearly all the credit I had. She stopped laughing. We signed a lease agreement that afternoon. I had a shelter. Ding. Shelter preparation, 15%. Secure location acquired. Note, location requires fortification and supply stockpiling before apocalypse event. Day 1, evening, I drove to the nearest large mart. The 24-hour kind that sold everything from instant noodles to camping equipment. I had a rented van that I had picked up from a rental company using my credit card. 48-hour rental. It was the biggest vehicle they had available on short notice. I filled the van methodically. In the first timeline, I had learned exactly what mattered and what did not when civilization collapsed. Water was king. I bought 40 cases of bottled water, 960 liters. That would last one person roughly 120 days at 8 liters per day. If I found more people, less. Food came second. I did not buy perishables. No vegetables, no fruit, no meat. I bought canned goods. 200 cans of various types. Beans, tuna, spam, corn, soup, condensed milk. Each can had a shelf life of 3 to 5 years. I also bought 50 kilograms of rice, 20 kilograms of flour, 10 kilograms of sugar, and 5 kilograms of salt. Medical supplies. Bandages, disinfectant, antibiotics from the pharmacy section, painkillers, anti-fever medication, suture kits from the camping section, and 4 bottles of high-proof alcohol that could serve as both disinfectant and trade goods. Tools. 2 axes, 3 hunting knives, a machete from the gardening section, duct tape 20 rolls, rope 200 meters, a toolbox with hammer, screwdrivers, pliers, and wrenches, a hand-powered radio, flashlights 10 units with 100 batteries, a solar-powered phone charger, camping equipment, 2 tents, not for living in but for creating secondary shelters or trade goods, sleeping bags, 5 units, a portable gas stove with 30 fuel canisters, waterproof tarps, 4 units, a water purification filter system. The total bill came to 4,200,000 won. I paid with credit cards and did not blink. The cashier looked at me like I was insane. A young man in a convenience store uniform buying enough supplies to outfit a small expedition, stocking up for a camping trip. I said, "That is a lot of camping," she said. I smiled. "You have no idea." Ding. Supplies preparation, 22%. Basic provisions secured for 90 to 120 days for one person. Note, supplies insufficient for group survival. Additional stockpiling recommended. I drove the loaded van to the storage facility and spent 3 hours unloading everything into the ground floor. I organized it the way Kareem would have. Wait, wrong story. I organized it the way my first timeline survival instincts told me to. Water against the back wall, stacked high, food sorted by type and expiration date, medical supplies in a separate room, tools and weapons by the door for quick access. By midnight, I had a functional supply depot. Not enough for long-term survival with multiple people, but enough to get through the critical first month. I drove back to my apartment and collapsed on the bed. 5 hours of sleep before the next day started. 6 days remaining. Day 2, 6 days remaining. Today was about weapons. In the first timeline, the Korean government's strict gun laws meant that almost nobody had firearms when the apocalypse started. The police and military had guns, but they were overwhelmed within the first 24 hours. Civilian survivors fought with kitchen knives, baseball bats, and improvised clubs. I could not buy guns legally in Korea, but I could buy things that were almost as useful. First stop, a sporting goods store. I bought a compound bow with 50 arrows. In the first timeline, I had seen a university archery club member survive for over a month using a bow. Silent, reusable ammunition, effective at range. The infected responded to sound. Guns attracted hordes. Bows did not. I also bought 2 crossbows. Easier to use than a compound bow for someone without training. I would need allies, and most allies would not know how to shoot a bow. Second stop, a hardware store. I bought 4 metal baseball bats. In close quarters, a metal bat was devastating against infected. The key was headshots. The infected could absorb enormous amounts of body damage, but their brains were still their weak point. I also bought materials for fortification. Steel plates, 10 units, welding equipment, bolts and industrial screws, metal mesh for windows, heavy chain and padlocks. Third stop, an auto parts store. I bought reinforced tires for the van, a jerrycan rack for the roof, and 80 liters of extra diesel fuel stored in proper containers. Ding. Weapons preparation, 18%. Basic armament secured. Ranged options, bow plus crossbows. Melee options, bats plus axes plus machete. Note, no firearms available. Recommend prioritizing stealth combat strategy. I spent the afternoon at the storage facility, mounting steel plates over the ground floor windows. I welded them in place using the equipment I had bought. The sparks flew and the metal screamed, and when I was done, the ground floor was a steel-reinforced concrete box with one entry point, the rolling door, and no windows. I tested the rolling door mechanism. It was electric, which meant it would stop working when the power grid failed. I rigged a manual chain pull system as backup. It took me 2 hours and 3 smashed fingers, but it worked. That evening, I climbed to the roof. The sun was setting over the city. Incheon stretched out below me in every direction. Apartment towers, shopping districts, highways, parks, millions of people going about their normal lives, eating dinner, watching television, complaining about work. None of them knew. In 6 days, 60% of them would be dead or infected. The other 40% would be fighting for their lives in a world that no longer had rules. I knew, and I could not tell anyone. Who would believe a 24-year-old convenience store worker claiming that the apocalypse was coming in less than a week? I would be locked in a psychiatric ward before the first infected appeared. But there was one thing I could do. I could save a few people. Not many, but a few. In the first timeline, there were people who had helped me. People the first had failed to save. One in particular haunted me. Her name was Yoon Seora. She was 22 years old. A nursing student at the university hospital near my convenience store. She came in every night around 2 a.m. to buy coffee and energy drinks before her overnight shift. We talked sometimes. Not about anything important, just the kind of small talk that happens between a cashier and a regular customer at 2 in the morning. On day 1 of the first apocalypse, she was at the hospital when the infected broke through. She survived for 11 days. I know this because I found her journal in the ruins of the hospital on day 15. She had barricaded herself in a supply closet with 3 other nurses. They ran out of water on day 8. She was the last one alive when she wrote her final entry. I could not save her then. I could save her now. The question was how. I could not walk up to her and say the world is ending, come with me. I could not kidnap her. I could not force her to leave her life based on the word of a stranger. But I had an advantage. I knew her routine. I knew where she would be at specific times. And I had 6 days to build enough trust that when I told her to leave, she would listen. I pulled up the system panel. Allies preparation, 0%. Note, solo survival in apocalypse scenarios has a maximum estimated duration of 60 to 90 days. Group survival extends duration significantly. Recommend, recruit 2 to 5 allies before apocalypse event. Tomorrow night, I would go to the convenience store for my shift. She would come in at 2 a.m. and I would start a conversation that might save her life. 5 days, 14 hours remaining. Day 3, 5 days remaining. Morning was spent on additional supply runs. I bought more canned food, another 20 cases of water, and something I had overlooked yesterday. Seeds. Vegetable seeds. Tomato, lettuce, pepper, cucumber, beans, and potato sets. If the apocalypse lasted longer than my supplies, I would need to grow food. The storage facility's roof was flat and received full sunlight. Rooftop farming was viable if I had soil and water. I bought 30 bags of potting soil and carried them up to the roof 2 at a time. My arms and legs burned, my back ached, but every bag on that roof was another month of potential food production. Ding, supplies preparation updated, 31%. Long-term food sustainability improved with seed stockpile. I also made a trip to the electronics district. I bought 2 portable generators, 1 gasoline-powered and 1 solar. The gasoline generator would provide immediate power after the grid failed. The solar panels would provide sustainable power long-term. I bought extra gasoline, 40 liters, and stored it in the basement away from the water well. Afternoon was spent reinforcing the second floor of the storage facility. I turned it into living quarters, 3 rooms with sleeping areas. A common room with a table and chairs scavenged from a closed restaurant. A kitchen area with a portable gas stove and a makeshift counter. It was not comfortable, the concrete walls were cold and bare. The lighting was a single battery-powered lantern, but it was secure, hidden, and stocked with enough supplies to survive for months. Ding, shelter preparation updated, 35%. Living quarters established. Fortification, partial, recommendation, complete window reinforcement on upper floors. At 11 p.m., I drove to the convenience store for my overnight shift. I was exhausted from 2 days of non-stop preparation, but I needed to be here tonight. She would come at 2 am. The store was quiet. A few late-night customers buying soju and snacks. I restocked shelves, cleaned the coffee machine, and watched the clock. At 1:47 a.m., the door chimed. She walked in. Yoon Seora. Short black hair, round glasses, dark circles under her eyes from another double shift at the hospital. She was wearing blue nursing scrubs and carrying a textbook under her arm. Pharmacology. She was studying for an exam. She went straight to the coffee machine. Large Americano. 3 shots. The same order every night. I made the coffee myself instead of letting the machine do it. I added an extra shot because she looked more tired than usual. Rough night? I asked. She sighed. 2 emergency admissions and a code blue in the ICU. Plus I have a pharmacology exam on Friday. She took the coffee and wrapped both hands around it. This is the only thing keeping me alive. I almost said something. Almost told her that in 18 days she would be dead in a supply closet with no water. Almost told her that the exam did not matter. That the hospital did not matter. That nothing in her current life mattered because it was all about to be erased. Instead, I said the coffee is on me tonight. She looked surprised. Really? You never give free coffee. Consider it an investment, I said. You look like you need it more than I need the 2,501. She smiled. A tired, grateful, genuine smile. Thanks, Jaehyun. You are one of the few decent people I see at this hour. She sat at the small table by the window and opened her textbook. She studied for about 30 minutes while sipping the coffee. I watched her from behind the counter, pretending to organize cigarette displays. In my first life, this was the last normal conversation I had with her before everything ended. She came in the next 3 nights too, but I had been too focused on my own problems to really talk to her. By day 1 of the apocalypse, we were strangers who shared a convenience store counter, and nothing else. Not this time. Before she left, I said something casual. Hey, if you are not busy this weekend, I know a good study spot. Quiet, no distractions, free coffee. She raised an eyebrow. Are you asking me out? No, I said quickly, just offering a study spot. I have access to a building in the industrial district. Big, empty, quiet. Perfect for studying. I paused. And I make better coffee than this machine. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she laughed. A real laugh, not the polite kind. You are weird, Jaehyun. But okay. Saturday afternoon? Saturday. Day 6. 1 day before the apocalypse. Perfect, I said. She left with a wave. The door chimed behind her. Ding. Alley candidate identified. Yoon Seora. Medical knowledge, advanced. Combat ability, none. Survival instinct, unknown. Current trust level, low. Note, this individual has high strategic value due to medical expertise. Recruitment recommended. Saturday. I had 3 more days to prepare the storage facility, stockpile more supplies, and figure out how to tell a nursing student that the world was ending without sounding insane. No pressure. Day 4. 4 days remaining. I quit my job at the convenience store. My manager, a balding man named Mr. Park, who had never said a kind word to anyone in his life, stared at me like I had grown a second head. You are quitting? Now? Without notice? I need to take care of some personal things, I said. He sputtered about responsibility and professionalism and how he would never give me a reference. I let him talk. In 4 days, Mr. Park and his convenience store and his reference letters would mean nothing. The building he was standing in would be full of infected by March 2020. I almost told him. Almost said, Mr. Park, take your family and drive north as far as you can. Buy water and canned food. Board up your windows. Do not trust anyone after Tuesday. But I did not, because Mr. Park would have called an ambulance for me, not a moving truck. I spent the morning on something the system classified under intelligence preparation. I drove around the city, specifically around the storage facility, mapping the surrounding area. In the first timeline, I had learned that geography was survival. Knowing which roads would be blocked, which buildings would be overrun, which areas would remain passable, that knowledge was worth more than any weapon. I mapped a 5-kilometer radius around the facility. I noted 3 key features. First, the industrial district around the facility was mostly warehouses and small factories. Low population density. That meant fewer infected in the immediate area when things started. Second, there was a small river about 800 meters south of the facility. In the first timeline, the infected did not cross running water easily. They could do it, but they were slow and clumsy in water. The river was a natural defensive barrier. Third, there was a National Guard armory about 3 kilometers northwest. In the first timeline, the armory had been overrun on day 2, but not before soldiers had scattered weapons and ammunition across the surrounding blocks during the fighting. If I could reach the armory area after things settled down, there might be firearms to salvage. Ding. Intelligence preparation, 12%. Local area mapped. Key features identified, low density zone, water barrier, potential weapons cache. Afternoon was spent on the storage facility. I welded steel plates over the second floor windows. I installed metal mesh on the third floor windows, leaving them openable for ventilation, but impossible for an infected to climb through. I reinforced the stairwell door between the first and second floors with steel bars and a deadbolt lock. If the rolling door on the ground floor was ever breached, we could retreat to the second floor and seal the stairwell. I also rigged a simple alarm system on the perimeter. Tin cans on strings, connected to the fence around the facility. Low tech, silent to us, but any movement along the fence would make the cans rattle. In the first timeline, I had learned that the infected could be heard before they could be seen, but only if you had something to amplify the sound. By evening, the facility was a fortress. Not perfect, not impenetrable, but significantly better than any residential building in the city. Ding. Shelter preparation updated, 52%. Fortification nearly complete. Multiple security layers established. Recommendation: test all entry and exit points under stress conditions. Day 4, night. I went back to the convenience store one last time. Not for work. For Senora. She came in at 2:07 a.m., later than usual. Her eyes were red. She had been crying. I made her coffee without asking. Extra shot. She took it and sat at the table, but she did not open her textbook. I gave it a few minutes. Then I walked over and sat across from her. Bad night? I asked. She did not look up. A patient died. An old man. He had been in the ICU for 2 weeks. I was his night nurse. She swallowed. I knew he was going to die. The doctor said there was nothing more we could do. But knowing and watching are different things. I did not say anything. In the first timeline, I had watched dozens of people die. I knew exactly what she meant about the difference between knowing and watching. But I could not tell her that. She wiped her eyes. Sorry. You did not sign up for this. You are just a cashier. I am a person, I said. People listen to other people. That is what we do. She looked at me, really looked at me for the first time, not as a cashier behind a counter, as a person sitting across from her at a table. You are different tonight, she said. You seem, I do not know, more serious. I have been thinking about things, I said, about what matters, about how short life can be, about how most people waste the time they have worrying about things that do not matter. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, that is an unusually philosophical thing for a convenience store worker to say at 2 a.m. I smiled. Maybe I am an unusually philosophical convenience store worker. She almost laughed. Almost. Then she asked, are we still on for Saturday? The study spot? Definitely, I said. But I want to show you something when you come. Something that might change how you think about things. She raised an eyebrow. That sounds ominous. It is not, I said. It is just important. She studied my face. Whatever she saw there made her nod slowly. Okay. Saturday. She finished her coffee and left. Ding. Yoon Seora trust level, low to moderate. Note, emotional vulnerability has created an opening for deeper connection. Handle with care. I stood behind the counter in the empty store and stared at the door she had walked through. In 18 days in the first timeline, she died alone in a closet. This time, she would be in a fortified building with supplies, weapons, and someone who knew what was coming. I would not fail her again. Day 5, 3 days remaining. I found my second ally by accident. I was carrying a steel plate from the van to the storage facility when I heard a voice behind me. That is a lot of fortification for a storage building. I spun around. A man was leaning against the fence of the neighboring property. He was in his late 30s, medium height, medium build, short military haircut going gray at the temples. He was wearing civilian clothes, jeans and a work jacket, but he stood the way military people stand. Straight back, weight balanced, hands visible and relaxed but ready. I set down the steel plate. Just doing some renovations. He looked at the plate, then at the welding burns on my arms, then at the van, which still had camping supplies visible in the back, then at me. Son, I spent 15 years in the Republic of Korea Marine Corps. I know the difference between renovations and fortification. He pushed off the fence and walked closer. What are you preparing for? I had two options. Lie and hope he went away. Or take the biggest risk since my regression and tell the truth. I looked at his face. Calm. Steady. No judgment. Just curiosity. The system panel appeared. Han Dojin, age 38. Martial ability, estimated high. Strategy, estimated above average. Loyalty, N.A., not recruited. Background, former ROKMC sergeant. Served 15 years including 2 overseas deployments. Honorably discharged 18 months ago. Currently unemployed. Lives alone in adjacent industrial lot. Ding. Potential ally detected. Military background, exceptional. Combat value, very high. Trust approach, direct honesty recommended for military personality types. Direct honesty. The system was telling me to just say it. I took a breath. What I am about to say is going to sound insane. He crossed his arms. I have heard a lot of insane things. Try me. In 6 days, something is going to happen. Something catastrophic. I do not know the exact cause, but I know the results. The majority of the population will be affected. Infrastructure will collapse. The infected, people who change into something hostile, will overrun every major population center within 48 hours. The government will fall within a week. By the end of the first month, organized civilization will effectively cease to exist. He stared at me. His expression did not change. Not shock, not disbelief, not laughter. He just stared with a flat, assessing look of a man who had spent years making life or death evaluations of people and situations. How do you know this? He asked. I cannot explain how, but I can show you what I have done to prepare. I took him inside the facility. I showed him everything. The supply stockpile, the water reserves, the fortifications, the weapons, the generators, the rooftop garden preparation, the medical supplies. He walked through every room in silence. He tested the rolling door. He checked the window reinforcements. He climbed to the roof and looked at the surrounding area. He went to the basement and examined the well. When he came back up, his face had changed, not to belief necessarily, but to something adjacent, interest, professional interest. The look of a soldier who sees a tactical position and evaluates its merits. Your fortification is decent but incomplete, he said. The stairwell door needs a secondary lock. The roofline has a blind spot on the northeast corner. And you have weapons but no organized defensive plan. He looked at me. If what you are saying is even partially true, one man cannot hold this building alone. I know, I said. That is why I am talking to you. He was quiet for a long time. He looked around the building one more time. Then he spoke. I have been out of the Corps for 18 months. I have applied for 67 jobs. Nobody wants to hire a 38-year-old sergeant with no civilian skills. I have been living in a shipping container next door, eating convenience store kimbap, and wondering what the point of everything was. He looked at me. If you are crazy, then I have nothing better to do anyway. If you are right, then you just found yourself a Marine. He extended his hand. Han Dojin, Sergeant, retired, reporting for duty. Ding. Han Dojin has joined as ally. Martial, 71. Strategy, 55. Loyalty, 35. Special talent, combat instructor. All allies within training receive accelerated combat skill development. Additional talent, threat assessment, automatically detects hostile presence within 500-meter radius. Ding. Allies preparation, 18%. Military ally recruited. Combat capability significantly improved. I shook his hand. Welcome, Sergeant Han. We have a lot of work to do. He cracked his knuckles. Show me the weapons inventory. I need to know what I'm working with. Days 5 and 6 with Dojin were transformative. He reorganized the entire facility in 12 hours. Not the supplies, Kareem style. The defensive layout. He moved the weapons cache from the ground floor to the second floor, because in a breach scenario, you retreat upward, not laterally. He designated the ground floor as the kill zone, a space that could be flooded, set on fire, or abandoned without losing critical supplies. He built 3 fighting positions on the roof, using sandbags I had not thought to buy. He sent me out for 40 bags of sand from a construction supply store, and spent the evening filling them and stacking them into chest-high walls at 3 corners of the roof. The northeast blind spot I had missed was covered by repositioning a steel plate as an angled shield. Now all 4 corners had clear sight lines. He tested the compound bow. He was not an archer, but his military training included basic marksmanship principles. He figured out the bow in about 20 minutes. Within an hour, he was hitting a cardboard target at 40 meters consistently. The crossbows are better for untrained people, he said. Point and shoot. But this bow has range and power. He looked at me. Can you shoot? In my first life, I had never touched a weapon before the apocalypse. In the 47 days of survival, I had learned to swing a bat and throw rocks. Not exactly special forces material. I can learn, I said. He handed me the bow. Then start learning. We have 2 days. He trained me for 4 hours. Stance, grip, draw, aim, release. The same sequence repeated until my fingers bled from the string and my shoulder ached from the draw weight. By the end, I could hit the target at 20 meters about half the time. Pathetic, he said, but better than nothing. Ding. Host combat skill updated. Ranged, 15 bow. Melee, 12 bat. Note, still significantly below combat effective threshold. Rely on allies for direct combat. On the morning of day 6, Dojin found something I had missed during my preparation. A blind spot in my thinking, not my fortification. Communication, he said. When the power grid fails, phones die within 24 hours as cell towers lose backup power. After that, how do we communicate with anyone outside this building? I had the hand-powered radio, but that was receive only. We could listen to emergency broadcasts but not transmit. We need a two-way radio, he said. Military band if possible. Civilian walkie-talkies at minimum. I drove to an electronics store and bought 4 long-range walkie-talkies with a 10-kilometer range. I also bought a CB radio unit that could transmit and receive on multiple frequencies. Dojin installed it on the roof that afternoon, running the antenna wire up the stairwell and out through a ventilation shaft. If anyone else out there has a radio, we will hear them, he said. And they will hear us. He paused. That can be good or bad. Some survivors will be allies. Some will be predators. I know, I said. I had met both kinds in my first life. Ding. Intelligence preparation updated, 25%. Communication equipment installed. Broadcast and receive capability established. Day 6, Saturday. 1 day remaining. Senora arrived at Twapem. She was wearing civilian clothes for the first time since I had known her. Jeans, a white sweater, and sneakers instead of nursing scrubs. She looked younger without the hospital uniform, less tired. She stood at the gate of the facility and looked up at the building. Her expression was uncertain. This is your study spot? She asked. It looks like a warehouse. It is, I said. Come inside. I will explain. I walked her through the ground floor. She saw the supplies first. The rows of canned food in water cases, the medical kit, the camping equipment. Jae-hyun, she said slowly. What is all this? I took a breath. This was the moment. I had rehearsed this conversation 100 times in my head, trying to find the version that did not sound completely insane. Senora, I need you to listen to me without interrupting. What I'm about to tell you will sound crazy. I know it sounds crazy, but I need you to hear all of it before you decide what to think. She crossed her arms. Her nursing training had given her a solid poker face. She listened. I told her a version of the truth, not the full truth, not about the regression or the system. I told her that I had received credible intelligence that a major crisis was imminent, something biological, something that would collapse infrastructure, overwhelm hospitals, and make the streets unsafe within hours. I told her I had been preparing for 2 weeks, and that this building was a safe location stocked with everything needed to survive for months. I did not use the word apocalypse. I did not mention infected. I framed it as a pandemic scenario, something a medical professional would understand. She listened without interrupting, exactly as I asked. When I finished, she was quiet for about 30 seconds. Then she asked a question that surprised me. Where did the intelligence come from? I cannot tell you that. Is it military? Government? I cannot say. She looked at the supplies again, the organized rows, the medical kit, the fortification. She walked to the medical supplies and opened the kit. She examined the contents with professional eyes. Suture kits, antibiotics, the 4th fluid bags that I had bought from a veterinary supply store, surgical gloves. Whoever set this up knew what they were doing medically, she said. These are not random purchases. This is a field hospital kit. I set it up, I said, based on what I think we will need. She looked at me. You are a convenience store worker. Where did you learn to build a field hospital kit? I could not answer that honestly. In the first timeline, I had watched people die from treatable injuries because nobody had the right supplies. I had learned what mattered by watching what was missing. Instead I said, I read a lot. She did not believe me. I could see it in her eyes. But she also did not leave. She kept looking at the supplies, the building, the fortifications. She was processing. Dojin walked in from the back room. He was carrying 2 walkie-talkies and a roll of wire. He nodded at Senora politely. This is Sergeant Han, I said. Former Marine, he believes me. Senora looked at Dojin. He looked back at her with his calm, steady, military eyes. He is telling the truth, Dojin said simply. I do not know how he knows what he knows, but I have seen his preparation. Either he is the most organized schizophrenic in Korea, or something is coming. I am betting on something coming. Senora was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that changed everything. I had a dream 3 nights ago, she said. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I was in the hospital. The hallways were dark. The emergency lights were on. And there were people in the hallways, but they were not right. They were moving wrong. Walking into walls. Their skin was gray. She swallowed. I woke up screaming. My roommate thought I was having a panic attack. My blood went cold. She had dreamed it. She had seen what was coming. I looked at the system panel. Ding. Yoon Senora, latent precognition detected. This individual possesses a dormant ability related to threat perception. Ability may activate during or after apocalypse event. A dormant ability. Senora was not just a nurse, she was a potential awakened. In the first timeline, some survivors had developed abilities after exposure to whatever caused the apocalypse. Enhanced strength, heightened senses, in rare cases, stranger things. I had not developed any abilities myself, but I had heard rumors of people who had. Senora's ability was trying to warn her before the event even started. Senora, I said, stay here tonight, bring whatever you need from your apartment tomorrow morning, but do not go back to the hospital. She looked at me. Her eyes were frightened but steady. The eyes of a woman who had watched a man die 2 nights ago and came back to work the next day. I am a nurse, she said. If something is really coming, a hospital is exactly where I should be. The hospital will be one of the first places overrun, I said. Too many people in a confined space. When it starts, the hospital becomes a trap. She flinched, because she knew I was right. Every pandemic protocol she had ever studied said the same thing. Hospitals were vectors, not refuges, in a large-scale outbreak. One day, she said finally, give me 1 day. I need to get my things. And I need to, she paused. I need to try to warn my roommate. I nodded. Tomorrow morning, early, be here by 10 am, please. She nodded. She walked to the door, then she stopped and turned back. Jae-hyun, if you are wrong about this, I will never speak to you again. If I am wrong, I said, I will buy your coffee for the rest of my life. She almost smiled. Then she left. Ding. Yoon Sera trust level, moderate. Tentative commitment to shelter plan. Estimated arrival probability, 75%. 75%. 1 in 4 chance she would not come. That she would talk herself out of it overnight, decide I was crazy, and go to the hospital like normal. I could not control that. I could only control what I did next. Dojin was standing behind me. He had been listening to the entire conversation. He did not ask questions. He just said, she seems smart. I hope she comes. So do I said. 22 hours remaining. Day 7 March 21st. Apocalypse Day. I woke at 5 am. The countdown timer in my vision read 14 hours 32 minutes. I could not eat. My stomach was a knot of acid and dread. I forced down half a protein bar and a bottle of water. Then I checked every system in the facility one more time. Rolling door, locked. Manual chain backup functional. Stairwell door, reinforced, deadbolt engaged. Windows, first floor sealed with steel, second floor sealed with steel, third floor covered with metal mesh. Rooftop positions, 3 sandbag stations, weapons cached at each. Alarm system, tin cans on strings, perimeter coverage complete. Water, well functional, 960 liters bottled reserve. Food, estimated 120 days for 3 people. Generators, gasoline unit fueled, solar panels connected. Medical, field kit stocked. Communications, CB, radio operational, 4 walkie-talkies charged. Dojin was already on the roof. He had been up since 4 am. He was sitting behind the south sandbag position, scanning the surrounding area with binoculars he had produced from somewhere. I did not ask where. Marines always seem to have binoculars. Quiet morning, he said without lowering them. It will not stay quiet, I said. He lowered the binoculars and looked at me. You really believe this is happening today? It was not a question, but I answered anyway. Yes. He nodded. Then he went back to scanning. That was the thing about Dojin. He did not need to believe me completely. He just needed a reason to be ready. And being ready was what he had spent his entire adult life doing. At 7 am, I drove the van to a gas station and filled the tank, plus all 4 jerry cans, 120 liters of diesel total. When I came back, I parked the van inside the facility's ground floor and locked the rolling door behind it. From this point forward, the door stayed closed. At 8 am, I carried the last supplies from the van to the 2nd floor. Extra batteries, more duct tape, a crowbar I had forgotten bring up earlier, a fire extinguisher from the van's emergency kit. At 9 am, I stood at the gate and waited for Senora. 9:15. No Senora. 9:30. No Senora. 9:45. My stomach was eating itself. The countdown read 9 hours 47 minutes. If she did not come, I would have to decide whether to go look for her or stay and protect what I had built. In the first timeline, I had gone looking for people who did not show up. 2 of those searches had nearly killed me. 9:52. A taxi pulled up to the gate. Señora got out. She was carrying a large backpack and a rolling suitcase. She was wearing jeans, sneakers, and a thick jacket despite the mild weather. She had dressed for practicality, not fashion. That told me she was taking this seriously. She also had dark circles under her eyes. She had not slept. My roommate thinks I am insane, she said as she walked through the gate. She would not come. I tried for 2 hours. She laughed at me and said she had a date tonight. I took her suitcase. You tried. That is all you can do. She stopped walking and looked at me. Jae-hyun, if nothing happens today, I just threw away my credibility, my roommate relationship, and possibly my nursing internship for a paranoid man with a warehouse full of canned beans. I looked her in the eyes. Something is going to happen, and when it does, you are going to be the reason people survive. Because you are the only one here who knows how to stop bleeding, set bones, and keep people alive when everything else fails. She held my gaze for a long moment. Then she picked up her backpack and walked inside. Okay, show me where the medical station is. Ding. Yoon Señora has joined the shelter. Allies preparation, 28%. Current group, 3 members. Medical capability, excellent. Ding. Preparation interface, final assessment beginning in 9 hours. I introduced Señora to Dojin. The ex-Marine shook her hand with formal politeness. He called her Miss Yoon. She called him Sergeant Han. Within 30 minutes, she had reorganized the medical station, criticized my suture kit selection, and sent Dojin to the roof to bring down a first aid pack she wanted to restock. She is bossy, Dojin said when he came back. She is a nurse, I said. They are all bossy. It keeps people alive. He grunted. Sounded like agreement. Señora unpacked her own bag. She had brought things I had not thought to get: a proper blood pressure monitor, a stethoscope, prescription painkillers that she had taken from the hospital supply closet, surgical masks, 50 units, latex gloves, 2 boxes, a thick pharmacology textbook. She also brought something personal, a framed photograph of an older woman that she placed on the shelf beside her bed. Her mother, I assumed. She did not explain, and I did not ask. The morning passed slowly. The 3 of us moved through the facility in a state of controlled tension. Dojin checked weapons and sightlines. Señora organized medical supplies and created a triage procedure written on a sheet of paper taped to the wall. I monitored the system countdown and paced. 12 p.m. 7 hours 32 minutes. 1 p.m. 6 hours 32 minutes. 2 p.m. 5 hours 32 minutes. At 3 p.m., Dojin came down from the roof. His face was different, tighter. Something is happening with the sky, he said. We climbed to the roof. The 3 of us stood at the south wall and looked up. The sky was changing color. Not dramatically, not the sudden red shift that I remembered from the first timeline. That would come later. This was subtle. The blue was fading, not to gray like clouds but to a washed-out pale color that was not quite any natural shade. Like someone had turned down the saturation on reality. Do you see that? Dojin said, pointing west. The horizon line. It is wrong. He was right. The western horizon had a thin band of color that should not have been there. Dark reddish purple, like a bruise forming on the edge of the sky. Señora was holding her arms. She was shivering despite the warm afternoon air. I feel strange, she said. My skin feels tingly, like static electricity. Ding. Atmospheric anomaly detected. Apocalypse. Event precursor phase initiated. Estimated time to primary event, 4 hours 17 minutes. 4 hours, the precursor phase. In the first timeline, I had not noticed the precursors because I had been inside the convenience store stacking shelves. By the time I looked outside, the sky was already red. We went inside. I sealed the 3rd floor windows. Dojin secured the roof access hatch, but left it unlockable from inside. Señora checked the water seal on the ground floor rolling door. At 5 p.m., the light changed again. The sun was still visible but it looked wrong. Too orange, too large. Like looking at the sun through smoke, except there was no smoke. People on the street outside started noticing. A man walking his dog stopped and stared at the sky. A woman came out of the neighboring factory and shielded her eyes. Car horns started honking. Not angry honks, confused honks. The horn language of people who sensed something wrong but did not know what. Dojin was on the roof with the binoculars. I could hear his voice through the walkie-talkie clipped to my belt. Highway 7 is starting to back up. People are pulling over to look at the sky. Some are getting out of their cars. He paused. Wait, something is happening downtown. I can see flashing lights. Emergency vehicles. A lot of them. Heading toward the hospital district. The hospital district, where Señora would have been right now if I had not intervened. Señora heard through her walkie-talkie. Her face went white. My colleagues, she whispered. My patients. I put my hand on her shoulder. There is nothing you can do for them now. She closed her eyes, her fists clenched at her sides. Then she opened them. Okay, what do I do here? Stay ready, I said. It starts soon. At 7:30 p.m., the sky turned red. Not gradually. Not like a sunset. One moment it was the sickly pale color it had been all afternoon. The next moment, the entire sky from horizon to horizon was a deep, bloody crimson. Like someone had painted the atmosphere with a single brushstroke. Every car alarm in the district went off simultaneously. Dogs started howling. The feral cats that lived around the industrial buildings scattered in every direction. Then the black rain started. It was not water. It was thicker than water, slightly oily, and dark as ink. It fell slowly, almost lazily, like the sky was bleeding. Where it hit bare skin, it burned. Not fire burn, chemical burn. A sharp, acidic sting that left red marks on the flesh. Dojin pulled back from the roof immediately. His hands were spotted with red welts where the rain had hit. Corrosive, he said. Low concentration acid. Not lethal on contact, but prolonged exposure will cause tissue damage. I sealed the roof hatch. The rain drummed against the steel plates on the windows. The sound was different from normal rain. Heavier, wetter, wrong. Through the gaps in our third-floor window mesh, I could see the streets below. People were running. Some were screaming. A man was lying on the sidewalk, clutching his face where the rain had hit his eyes. A woman was dragging 2 children toward a building entrance. And then the first infected appeared. He came out of the neighboring factory. A heavy-set man in work overalls. He had been inside when the rain started, but I could see black streaks on his skin where the rain had hit him through the factory's broken windows. He was walking wrong. Stiff-legged, lurching, like his joints had forgotten how to bend properly. His head was tilted at an unnatural angle, and his skin was already changing. The healthy pink tone was draining away, replaced by a grayish pallor that spread across his face like ink in water. He walked into the middle of the road and stopped. He stood there in the black rain, not reacting to the burning, not moving, not blinking, just standing, for about 30 seconds. Then he turned toward the sound of the screaming woman with the children, and he started walking toward her. Senora was beside me at the window. She watched the infected man moving toward the woman. Her medical training was fighting with her survival instinct. Every cell in her body wanted to run down there and help. I grabbed her arm. "Do not," I said. "There is nothing you can do. He's going to hurt them," she said. "He is not a person anymore," I said. "Whatever the rain does to people, it rewrites them. They are not sick. They are not confused. They are something else." The infected man reached the woman. She screamed and pushed her children behind her. The man lunged. His hands closed around her arm with a grip that bent her elbow backward. The snap was audible from 3 stories up. Senora turned away. I heard her throw up behind me. Dojin did not turn away. He watched with cold assessment. He was counting, estimating. His marine brain was processing the infected man's movement speed, attack pattern, and physical capability. "Strong," he said. "Much stronger than a normal person that size. Fast for the initial lunge, but slow in sustained movement." He narrowed his eyes. "And he did not react to pain when the woman hit him. She struck his face twice. He did not flinch." The system confirmed what Dojin was observing. Ding. Apocalypse event has begun. Infected classification, stage 1. Characteristics: enhanced strength, reduced pain response, impaired cognition, driven by proximity aggression, weakness, head trauma, movement speed, slow walking, danger level, moderate individually, extreme in groups. Ding. Preparation interface. Final assessment: shelter, 52%, supplies, 31%, weapons, 18%, allies, 28%, intelligence, 25%, overall preparation score, 31%. 31%, below the recommended minimum of 40%. I had done a lot, but there were gaps. Not enough weapons, not enough allies, not enough intelligence about what was coming. Ding. Preparation score, 31%. Survival ability unlocked, infected sense. Host can detect infected presence within a 100-meter radius. Infected appear as red markers in host's perception field. If I had scored higher, I might have gotten something better. Enhanced strength, accelerated healing. But 31% gave me a detection ability. Not flashy, not powerful, but in a world where you could die because you did not hear the infected around the corner, knowing where they were was worth more than strength. I closed my eyes and activated the ability. The world behind my eyelids bloomed with red dots. Each dot was an infected. I could feel their presence like heat sources in the dark. 3 red dots on the street below, 7 more in the factory next door, 12 in the residential buildings 2 blocks east, and the number was growing. Every minute, new dots appeared. The black rain was still falling. Every person it touched was a potential new infected. Not everyone turned. Maybe 60% in the first hour, based on what I remembered from the first timeline. But 60% of a city's population was more than enough to end civilization. "Dojin," I said, "how many rounds of ammunition do we have for exactly 0 guns?" He almost smiled. 0 rounds for 0 guns. But we have 47 arrows, 2 crossbows, a compound bow, 4 metal bats, 2 axes, a machete, and a retired Marine who once killed an insurgent with a folding chair. We also have a nurse who just threw up, Senora said from behind us. She had wiped her mouth and straightened up. Her face was still pale but her eyes were steady. But this nurse knows how to tie a tourniquet in 8 seconds and can administer the 4th fluids in the dark. So tell me what to do and I will do it. Ding. Group morale assessed, stable. All 3 members committed. The black rain fell all night. The sounds from the city changed as the hours passed. First screaming. Then car crashes as drivers panicked and the infected walked into traffic. Then sirens, dozens of them, from every direction. Then gunshots, distant and sporadic. Then, gradually, silence. Not peaceful silence. The silence of a city that was dying. At 3 a.m., the power went out. Not a flicker. Not a brownout. A total, instantaneous blackout. Every light in every building across the visible skyline went dark simultaneously. The hum of electricity that you never notice until it is gone disappeared, replaced by absolute silence. Then the emergency generators kicked in at the hospital 3 kilometers away. I could see the glow of backup lights on the horizon, but it was faint. And it would not last. In the first timeline, the hospital generators ran for about 8 hours before the fuel ran out. Our gasoline generator was ready. I did not start it. Not yet. The sound would attract attention from anything within earshot. For now, we used flashlights and the battery lanterns. Dojin had divided the night into 3 watch shifts. He took first watch, midnight to 4 am. I took second, 4 am to 8 am. Senora took third, 8 am to noon, though I suspected she would not sleep regardless. During my watch, I sat on the second floor landing with the compound bow across my knees. The tin can alarm system was silent. No movement on the perimeter. The infected I could sense with my ability were mostly stationary, standing in the streets and the factory like broken machines waiting for input. That was the thing about stage 1 infected. They were reactive, not proactive. They stood still until they detected movement, sound, or proximity. Then they attacked. If you stayed quiet and out of sight, they would ignore you. In the first timeline, I had learned this the hard way. On day 3, I had made noise knocking over a shelf in a pharmacy. 6 infected had converged on my location within minutes. I barely escaped through a bathroom window. This time, we were quiet. The facility was sealed. No light leaked out. No sound escaped. At 6 am, the black rain stopped. The sky was still red but lighter now, more like a permanent sunset than the deep crimson of the night. The air smelled wrong, metallic and sour, like rust and vinegar mixed together. I scanned the surroundings with my infected sense. The red dots had multiplied overnight. Where there had been 20 or 30 last evening, there were now over 100 within my detection radius. The residential blocks to the east were saturated. The industrial district around us was thinner, maybe 15 to 20 infected within 100 meters. Dojin came up beside me. He had slept for exactly 4 hours. He looked the same as always. Alert, calm, ready. Situation report, he said, like he was briefing a commanding officer. Power is out citywide. Black rain stopped at 600. Infected count in our immediate area, approximately 20. Residential zones to the east are heavily populated. No signs of organized military or police response. He nodded. Expected. The military bases are north of the city. They will mobilize, but it will take 24 to 48 hours for any organized response to reach our area. If a response comes at all. He looked out through the mesh window. We are on our own. Senora appeared behind us. She had not slept. She was carrying 2 bowls of instant rice that she had heated on the portable gas stove. She handed one to each of us. You need to eat, she said. Both of you. Starvation kills slower than infected, but it kills just as dead. She sounded like a nurse giving orders to difficult patients. It was strangely comforting. We ate. The rice was bland and slightly undercooked. It was the best meal I had ever had. After breakfast, I checked the system. Ding. Day 1 of apocalypse. Survival timer activated. Current group, 3 members. Shelter integrity, 95%. Supply reserves, 118 days at current consumption rate. Threat level in immediate area, moderate. Ding. New system feature unlocked. Survivor radar. Host can now detect living non-infected humans within 200-meter radius. Living humans appear as blue markers. I activated the survivor radar. 3 blue dots inside the facility. Me, Dojin, Senora. And 1 blue dot outside, about 150 meters north. Moving slowly, erratically. Someone is alive out there, I said. Dojin raised the binoculars. He scanned north. Silence for 10 seconds. Found them, he said. Northwest corner. Behind the dumpsters at the food processing plant. 1 person, looks injured. They are limping. Male or female, hard to tell. Wearing a hoodie. Small build, could be a teenager. I checked the infected markers. 4 red dots between us and the survivor. all stationary. If we moved quietly, we could reach the survivor without triggering any of them. Dojin read my mind. It is risky. We do not know if that person is alone or if there are more infected between here and there that you cannot sense beyond 100 meters. I know, I said, but we are 3 people in a building designed for 20. And that person might die if we do nothing. He was quiet. Then he said, I will go. You cover from the roof with the bow. If anything moves, you shoot. I cannot hit anything at 150 meters. Then shoot at the ground near them. The sound of an arrow hitting concrete might scatter stage 1 infected. Their threat response is primitive. Senora spoke up. If they are injured, I need to see them as soon as they get inside. Do not waste time on introductions. Bring them straight to the medical station. Dojin picked up a metal bat and 2 crossbow bolts. He tucked the bolts into his belt and held the bat in his right hand. He moved to the rolling door. Open it 6 inches, he said. Close it the moment I am through. Do not open it again until I knock 3 times, pause, then twice. I gripped the chain. Ready. He crouched by the gap. Go, he said. I pulled the chain. The door rose 6 inches. Dojin rolled under it like water, silent and fast. I dropped the chain. The door slammed shut. Through the walkie-talkie, I heard his breathing. Steady. Controlled, the breathing of a man who had done this before, not in an apocalypse, in places with names I could not pronounce, in situations that were classified, against enemies that were human, but no less dangerous. I sprinted to the roof. I grabbed the compound bow, and knocked an arrow. My hands were shaking. I found Dojin through the binoculars first, then switched to the bow sight. He was moving north along the wall of the neighboring building, low, fast, quiet. He passed the first infected, a woman standing in the middle of the road about 10 meters away, without making a sound. She did not react. He passed the second, a man leaning against a car, equally oblivious. He reached the dumpsters in about 90 seconds. I saw him crouch beside the survivor. Words I could not hear. Then he pulled the person's arm over his shoulder and started moving back. The survivor was small, thin, wearing an oversized hoodie and torn jeans. They were limping badly, favoring the right leg. Blood was visible on the left knee. They were halfway back when it happened. The survivor stumbled. Their foot hit a piece of metal debris on the ground. It clanged against the concrete. The sound echoed across the empty street. Every infected within earshot turned. The woman in the road. The man by the car. 2 more from inside the factory that I had not seen. All 4 of them pivoted toward the sound and started moving. Dojin did not hesitate. He shoved the survivor behind a parked truck and turned to face the closest infected. The woman. She was 3 meters away and closing. He swung the bat. The impact was perfect. Center of the forehead, the woman's skull cracked, and she dropped like her strings had been cut. The man from the car was next. Dojin sidestepped his lunge and drove the bat into the back of his head. Down. The third infected was faster. It grabbed Dojin's arm before he could swing. I saw him grimace as the grip tightened. Then he headbutted the infected in the face, breaking its nose, and slammed the bat into its temple with his free hand. 3 down in 8 seconds. The 4th was coming from behind. Dojin did not see it. I released the arrow. I was shaking. My aim was terrible. I had been training for 2 days. 150 meters was beyond anything I had practiced. The arrow missed the infected by 2 meters. It hit the concrete with a sharp crack. But Dojin heard it. He spun. He saw the 4th infected lunging at him. He dropped low, let it stumble over him, and drove a crossbow bolt through the base of its skull as it fell. 4 down, 12 seconds total. He grabbed the survivor, threw them over his shoulder, and ran. Not quietly this time. Full sprint. His boots pounded the concrete. More infected were turning, converging from the side streets. I fired 2 more arrows toward the converging infected. Both missed, but the impacts made the infected flinch and slow, giving Dojin an extra few seconds. He reached the rolling door. 3 knocks. Pause. 2 knocks. I was already downstairs. I pulled the chain. 6 inches. Dojin dove through with the survivor on his back. I dropped the door. It crashed down. I slammed the deadbolt. Outside, I could hear the infected arriving. Hands slapping against the metal door. Fingernails scraping steel. The wet, rattling breathing of things that were not people anymore. The door held. The steel plates held. The bolts held. Inside, Dojin set the survivor down on the floor. He was breathing hard. His arms had red marks where the infected had gripped him. But he was alive. Senora was already kneeling beside the survivor, pulling back the hoodie. It was a boy. Maybe 16. Korean. Thin face, messy hair, terrified eyes. His left knee was torn open and bleeding through his jeans. He was shaking violently. Senora worked fast. She cut the jeans away from the wound with medical scissors. She cleaned the gash with disinfectant. The boy screamed. She did not flinch. She applied pressure with gauze, checked for bone damage, and started suturing within 3 minutes. You are safe, she told him as she stitched. You are in a safe place. My name is Senora. I am a nurse. This is going to hurt, but you are going to be fine. The boy's shaking slowed, not because the pain stopped, because someone competent was telling him he would survive, and he believed her. Ding. New group member rescued. Park Min-soo, age 16, martial 8, strategy 22, loyalty 55. Special talent, dormant, will activate upon recovery. Background, high school student. Parents, status unknown. Ding. Group updated, 4 members. Allies preparation retroactively increased to 35%. I looked at our group. A regressor with future knowledge. An ex-marine who killed 4 infected in 12 seconds. A nurse who could stitch a wound while the world ended outside. And a terrified teenager who might have a dormant ability. 4 people. A sealed building. 100 infected outside. Day 1 was not over yet. But we were alive. And in this new world, alive was the only thing that mattered. Day 2 of the apocalypse. Nobody slept well. The infected outside had quieted down around 4 am, but the silence was worse than the noise. At least when they were scratching at the door, you knew where they were. In the silence, your brain invented sounds. Every creak of the building, every shift in the wind, every distant thud, became an infected breaking through a wall. Min-soo woke up crying, not loud, quiet, trembling sobs that he tried to muffle with his sleeve. Senora sat beside him on the floor and held his hand. She did not tell him everything would be okay. She just held his hand and let him cry. When he calmed down, she checked his knee. The sutures were holding. No signs of infection, the medical kind. She changed the dressing and gave him 2 painkillers. Can you walk? She asked. He tested his weight on the leg. He winced but nodded. It hurts, but I can move. Good. She handed him a bottle of water and a can of tuna. Eat everything. Your body needs protein to heal. He ate mechanically. His eyes were distant. Wherever his mind was, it was not in this building. It was wherever his parents were, or wherever he feared they might be. I sat across from him. Min-soo, can you tell me where you were when it started? He swallowed a mouthful of tuna. I was at my friend's house, in the Songdo apartments. His parents were not home. We were playing games when the rain started. He put his hand out the window to feel it, and it burned him. Then the screaming started downstairs. He paused. His eyes went glassy. We tried to leave through the stairwell. There were people in the stairwell, but they were not right. They were moving wrong. One of them grabbed my friend. I could not. He stopped. His hands were shaking. I did not make him continue. I knew how this story ended. It ended with a 16-year-old boy alone in an industrial district with a torn knee, hiding behind dumpsters while the world collapsed around him. You are safe now, I said. We have food, water, walls, and people who know how to fight. You are not alone anymore. He looked at me. His eyes were young and terrified and desperate. Do you think my parents are alive? I did not know. In the first timeline, the Songdo residential district had been one of the hardest hit areas. High population density, narrow streets, tall buildings with limited exits. The infection rate there was over 70% in the first 24 hours. But I did not say that. I do not know, I said honestly. But when things stabilize, we will try to find out, I promise. Ding, Park Min-soo loyalty increased to 68, trust bond forming. Day 3. We needed supplies. The canned food and water would last months at our current consumption rate. But there were things we did not have. Fresh clothing, more medical supplies, specifically antibiotics, which Senora said we would need when infected wounds started occurring. Cooking fuel beyond the gas canisters. And most importantly, information. We had the CB radio but had not picked up any broadcasts. Dojin sat at the radio for 2 hours, scanning frequencies. Static on most channels. A few garbled transmissions too broken to understand. Then, at 11:47 a.m., a clear signal. This is ROKAF. Emergency broadcast. All citizens are advised to shelter in place. Do not attempt to travel. Military rescue operations are being organized at designated safe zones. Safe zones will be announced on this frequency within 48 hours. Repeat. Shelter in place. Military rescue operations are being organized. The message repeated on a loop. It was automated. A pre-recorded emergency broadcast, probably triggered when the government's crisis protocols activated. Dojin listened to it 3 times. Then he turned the volume down. Automated, he said. That means nobody is actively manning the broadcast station. The government has activated emergency protocols but has not established operational command yet. He leaned back. If I know the military, and I do, they are pulling back to defensible positions right now. Air bases, naval facilities, mountain bunkers. They will consolidate before they start rescue operations. How long? I asked. He thought about it. If command structure is intact, 72 to 96 hours for the first organized response. If command structure is compromised, could be weeks, or never. I filed that away. 72 hours minimum before any possible help, probably much longer. The supply run could not wait. Dojin and I went. Senora stayed with Minsu. We gave her a crossbow and a walkie-talkie. She held the crossbow like she was holding a poisonous snake. Point the front end at the bad thing and pull the trigger, Dojin said. I went to medical school, not the Marines, she replied. Same principle. Aim for center mass. In this case, aim for the head. We left through the rolling door at noon. The sun was out but filtered through a hazy red atmosphere that made everything look like it was photographed through a dirty lens. The air tasted metallic. The black rain had left dark stains on every surface. The road, the buildings, the cars, everything was streaked with oily black residue. My infected sense showed 12 red dots within 100 meters. Most were stationary. 3 were clustered inside the food processing plant to the north. 2 were standing in the road about 60 meters west. The rest were scattered in the surrounding buildings. We moved south toward a small commercial strip that I knew from my area mapping. A convenience store, a pharmacy, and a hardware shop, all within 200 meters of each other. In the first timeline, I had not discovered this strip until day 20. By then, it had been thoroughly looted. This time, we would be among the first. Dojin moved like smoke, silent, fluid, always in cover. He used parked cars, walls, and dumpsters as concealment, never crossing an open space without scanning both directions first. I followed his movements as best I could. I was louder, clumsier, every footstep I took sounded like a drum in the dead silence. He stopped behind a delivery van and held up a fist. Military hand signal for halt. I froze. He pointed to the right. An infected was standing in the doorway of the convenience store. A young man in a store uniform. He was just standing there, swaying slightly, his milky eyes staring at nothing. Dojin held up one finger, then pointed at himself, then made a throat-cutting gesture. He crept around the van. He was holding the metal bat in his right hand. He approached the infected from behind, completely silent. 3 meters. 2 meters. 1 meter. 1 swing. The bat connected with the base of the skull. The infected dropped without a sound. Dojin waved me forward. The convenience store was intact. Nobody had looted it yet. The shelves were still stocked. Chips, instant noodles, drinks, canned goods, batteries, lighters, cigarettes. I grabbed a shopping basket and started filling it. Not with junk food, with the things that mattered, all remaining batteries. Every lighter and box of matches. Medical tape and bandages from the small health section. Soju and beer, not for drinking but for disinfectant and trade goods. Plastic bags for waterproofing. Duct tape, 3 more rolls. All the canned coffee, because Senora would need it. Dojin guarded the door while I worked. We filled 4 large bags in 8 minutes. Then we moved to the pharmacy next door. The pharmacy was a gold mine. Antibiotics, antifungals, painkillers, antihistamines, vitamins, antiseptic solution, surgical tape, gauze, ace bandages, thermometers. Senora had given me a list written on the back of a receipt. I checked off every item and added extras. The hardware store was last. More batteries, a portable solar lantern, cable ties, 200 units, a folding shovel, 2 more tarps, and something Dojin pointed out that I would never have thought of: fishing line and hooks. If there are fish in that river south of us, we have a renewable protein source, he said. Canned food runs out. Fish do not. We loaded everything into 2 large duffel bags and started back. The return trip was harder. We were carrying weight now, moving slower, making more noise. My infected sense was pinging more red dots than before. The infected seemed to be dispersing from the dense residential areas and spreading into the industrial zone. They were migrating. We made it to within 50 meters of the facility when Dojin stopped again. Fist up. Halt. He pointed ahead. 2 figures at our gate, not infected. They were moving normally, standing upright, talking to each other. Humans, living humans. I activated the survivor radar. 2 blue dots at the gate, plus Senora and Minsu inside, all blue. Dojin crouched low. Not hostile yet, he murmured, but not friendly until confirmed. He looked at me. Your call, boss. I studied the 2 figures through the haze. One was tall and lanky, wearing a delivery driver's uniform. The other was shorter, heavier, wearing a mechanic's jumpsuit. They were peering through the fence at the facility, talking in low voices. I could not hear what they were saying. But their body language was not aggressive. They looked tired, scared, and confused. The same way every survivor looked in the first days. I stood up and walked toward them. Dojin hissed something behind me but followed, bat ready. The 2 men saw me and tensed. The tall one took a step back. The shorter one raised his hands, palms out. We are not looking for trouble, the short one said quickly. We just saw your building, it looks secure. We were hoping someone was alive in there. I scanned them. Kim Tae-woo, age 41. Mechanic, martial 18, strategy 30, loyalty, NA. Special talent, vehicle engineering, can repair and modify any motorized vehicle with available parts. No combat training. Jang Pil-soo, age 29, delivery driver, martial 12, strategy 19, loyalty, NA, special talent, navigation, perfect spatial memory. Can memorize and recall any route traveled once, never gets lost. A mechanic and a delivery driver. One could fix vehicles. The other knew every road in the city. Together, they were a logistics team. Where'd you come from? I asked. The mechanic, Tae-woo, spoke. We were at the auto repair shop on Route 6, 2 kilometers northwest. When the rain started, we sealed the garage doors and waited. This morning we decided to move because the shop has no water supply. How many infected did you see between here and there? The driver, Pilsu, answered. Maybe 40 or 50. Most of them are clustered around the residential blocks. The industrial roads are mostly clear if you stay quiet. He looked at our building again. You have water in there? We have a well, I said. And food, and walls. Their eyes lit up simultaneously. Tae-woo swallowed hard. Will you let us in? We can work. I can fix anything with an engine. Pilsu knows every road in the district. We will not cause problems. I looked at Dojin. He gave me a tiny nod. 2 more bodies behind our walls was 2 more people to share watch shifts, and 2 fewer desperate strangers potentially becoming problems later. I opened the gate. Welcome in. Same rules as everyone. You work, you eat, you cause problems, you leave. Clear? Crystal clear, Tae-woo said. Ding. Kim Tae-woo has joined the group. Loyalty, 42. Jang Pilsu has joined the group. Loyalty, 38. Group size, 6. Ding. Vehicle engineering talent synergy detected. If a functional vehicle is available, this individual can modify it for apocalypse conditions, reinforced body, improved fuel efficiency, off-road capability. I had a van parked inside the facility. Tae-woo was going to love it. Day 5. The group settled into a rhythm faster than I expected. Dojin organized a daily schedule that everyone followed without complaint. He had that effect on people. When a former Marine sergeant told you to wake up at 6 am, you woke up at 6 am. 6:00, wake up. Personal hygiene using water from the well. 6:30, breakfast. Senora managed meal preparation and portions. 7, morning briefing. Status reports, task assignments, threat assessment. 7:30 to 12, work shift. Construction, fortification, supply organization, training. 12, lunch. 12:30 to 17, afternoon shift. Continued work or supply runs. 17, 18, evening briefing, review the day. 19, 22, personal time, rest, maintenance, Senora's medical checks. 22, lights out, night watch begins. 3 shifts of 2 people each. It was military structure applied to civilian life. And it worked. When people had a schedule, they had purpose. When they had purpose, they did not sit in corners staring at walls thinking about the world they had lost. Minsu recovered faster than expected. By day 4 he was walking without a limp. By day 5, he was helping Tae-woo in the garage bay. The mechanic had taken a liking to the teenager and was teaching him basic engine repair. Minsu's hands were steady and his concentration was intense. He absorbed information like a sponge. Then, on the evening of day 5, Minsu's dormant talent activated. We were eating dinner. Canned soup heated on the gas stove, with crackers from the convenience store run. Minsu was sitting between Senora and Pilsu, eating quietly, when he suddenly dropped his spoon and pressed both hands against his temples. Something is wrong, he said. His voice was strained. Something is coming. From the north. A lot of them. Moving together. Everyone froze. I activated my infected sense. The 100-meter radius showed normal scattered dots. Nothing unusual. Minsu, I said. What do you mean a lot of them? He squeezed his eyes shut. His hands were trembling against his head. I can feel them, like pressure in my skull. Dozens, maybe 100. They are walking south. Together. Not scattered, together, like a group, a horde. In the first timeline, the infected had started forming hordes around day 7. Groups of 50 to several hundred, moving in the same direction, attracted to sound or light or some unknown signal. A horde could overwhelm any position that was not heavily fortified. But this was day 5, earlier than I remembered. Either the timeline had shifted, or my presence had changed something. Ding! Park Minsu dormant talent activated, horde sense. Minsu can detect large concentrations of infected at up to 3-kilometer range. Direction and approximate size can be determined. This talent operates passively and cannot be turned off. 3-kilometer range. My infected sense reached 100 meters. Minsu could detect threats 30 times further away. He was a living early warning system. How far? I asked. He concentrated. Far. Maybe 2 or 3 kilometers north. Moving slowly. But definitely coming this way. Dojin was already moving. He grabbed the binoculars and went to the roof. I followed. We looked north. At first, nothing. The industrial district was dark and quiet under the red haze. Then I saw movement on the main road about 2 kilometers out. A mass of shapes moving south. Slow, shuffling, but relentless. They filled the road from one side to the other. A river of gray bodies flowing toward us. Dojin lowered the binoculars. His face was the most serious I had ever seen it. I count approximately 120 to 150, moving at walking speed. They will reach our position in approximately 40 minutes. 150 infected. Against 6 people with bats, bows, and a reinforced building. The building could hold, probably. The steel plates and brick walls could withstand physical force from the infected, but 150 bodies pressing against the rolling door would create enormous pressure. If even one weld failed, one bolt snapped, they would flood in. Options, I said. Dojin thought for 3 seconds. 3 options. 1. We stay and trust the fortification. Risk, structural failure under sustained pressure. 2. We evacuate south toward the river and circle back after the horde passes. Risk, exposure and potential contact with scattered infected during movement. 3. We create a diversion. Draw the horde away from us using sound or light in a different direction. Diversion, I said immediately. In the first timeline, I had learned that hordes followed stimulus. Sound attracted them. Light attracted them. If we could create a sustained noise source in a different direction, the horde would follow it instead of continuing south toward us. What do we have that makes sustained noise? Dojin asked. I looked at the van parked in the garage bay. Taewoo had been working on it all afternoon. Taewoo, I called down the stairwell. Is the van running? His voice came back from the garage. Running? I just finished tuning the engine. It runs better than new. Why? I explained the plan in 60 seconds. Drive the van north on a parallel road, away from the horde's path, turn on the headlights, and blast the horn. Lead the horde east, away from our facility. Then circle south and come back. Taewoo's face went pale. You want me to drive toward 150 zombies, not toward them, parallel to them, close enough for them to hear the horn, far enough that they cannot catch you. Then east, away from us. Pilsu stepped forward. I will drive. He looked at me with steady eyes. I know every road in this district, every alley, every dead end, every shortcut. I can drive through this area blindfolded. He looked at Taewoo. You ride shotgun and make sure the engine does not die. Ding. Navigation talent activated. Pilsu has mapped optimal diversion route. Estimated success probability, 78%. Taewoo looked at the van. Then at the ceiling, where 150 infected were slowly approaching. Then back at the van. Fine, he said. But if we die, I am blaming you. We opened the rolling door just wide enough for the van. Dojin had cleared a path south, confirming no infected within the immediate area. Pilsu drove the van out slowly. Lights off. Engine barely above idle. He turned north on the parallel service road. Through the walkie-talkie, I heard his voice. Okay. We are in position. I can see the horde on the main road about 400 meters west. They have not noticed us. Wait until they are closer, I said. 200 meters. Then hit the horn and lights. Silence on the radio. 30 seconds. A minute. Then Pilsu's voice. 200 meters. Here we go. The van's horn blasted through the silent night. It was deafening in the dead quiet of the apocalypse. The headlights flared to life, cutting white beams through the red haze. Pilsu held the horn for a solid 10 seconds. Through the binoculars, I watched the horde react. 150 gray bodies, all of them, turned simultaneously toward the sound, like a school of fish changing direction. One moment they were heading south. The next, they were heading northeast, toward the horn. Pilsu drove east. Slowly at first, keeping pace with the horde's walking speed, keeping the horn blaring at intervals. The horde followed. 100 meters. 200 meters, 300 meters away from our facility. He is pulling them away, Dojin said. His voice had a note of admiration. That kid can drive. Pilsu led the horde east for about a kilometer, then cut south on a road that looped back toward the river. The horde continued east on momentum, still following the echoes of the horn bouncing off warehouse walls. 20 minutes later, the van rolled back through our gate. Pilsu was grinning. Taewoo was gripping the dashboard with white knuckles and breathing like he had just run a marathon. That was the most terrifying and exciting thing I have ever done, Pilsu said. When can we do it again? Never, Taewoo said. Absolutely never. Ding. Horde diversion successful. Threat neutralized. Group morale, high. Pilsu loyalty increased to 62. Taewoo loyalty increased to 55. Ding. Survival milestone. Survived first horde encounter without casualties. Reward, system upgrade. New ability unlocked for host, threat prediction. Host can now anticipate infected movement patterns up to 6 hours in advance, based on environmental data. I sat on the second floor landing and exhaled. My hands were still shaking. They had been shaking since this whole thing started. I was beginning to wonder if they would ever stop. Senora sat beside me. She handed me a cup of instant coffee. She had heated water on the gas stove while we were dealing with the horde. You are doing well, she said. I do not feel like I am doing well, I said. I feel like I am barely holding things together with duct tape and prayer. She looked at our group. Dojin was showing Minsu how to load a crossbow. Taewoo was checking the van's tires for damage. Pilsu was drawing a map of his diversion route on a piece of cardboard, marking it for future use. Look at them, she said. 3 days ago, every single one of them was alone, terrified, and about to die. Now they are a team. They have jobs, routines, purpose. They trust each other. She looked at me. You did that, Jaehyun, not with weapons or walls. With leadership. I am not a leader, I said. I am a convenience store worker who got a second chance. She smiled. The first real, full smile I had seen from her since the apocalypse started. Maybe that is exactly the kind of leader this world needs. Ding. Yoon Seora loyalty, 72. Deep trust established. Day 7, 1 week since the apocalypse. The morning radio scan picked up something new. Not the automated government broadcast, which was still looping its useless shelter-in-place message. Something else. A live voice on a civilian frequency. This is Shelter 17, broadcasting from Incheon Harbor District. We have approximately 200 survivors. We are running low on food and medical supplies. If anyone can hear this, we need help. We have women and children. We will not last another week without resupply. This is Shelter 17, broadcasting on repeat. The voice was tired, male, probably middle-aged, the sound of a man who had been talking into a radio for days without response. Dojin and I looked at each other. 200 survivors, he said. Harbor District is about 8 kilometers north, through the densest infected zones in the city. I know, we cannot reach them, not with 6 people and 1 van. I know that too, but if we do not try, 200 people die. He was quiet. Then he said, we need more people, more weapons, more vehicles. We need to build a real operation before we can do anything that ambitious. He was right. 8 kilometers through an infected city was a suicide mission for our current group. We needed to grow, to strengthen, to organize. But now we had a mission, a reason beyond survival, 200 people waiting for help, women and children who would die in the dark if nobody came. I turned to the radio and pressed the transmit button. Shelter 17, this is Outpost South. We read you. We are a small group, 6 survivors, in the industrial district. We have supplies and fortification but limited manpower. We cannot reach you yet, but we are working on it. Hold your position. Ration everything. Do not send people out alone. We will contact you again in 48 hours with a plan. I released the button. Static. Silence. Then the voice came back, shaking. Outpost South. This is Shelter 17. We hear you. Thank God, we hear you. We will hold. Please hurry. Ding. Communication established. Shelter 17, 200 survivors in Incheon Harbor District. Distance, 8 kilometers. Infected density on route, extreme. Rescue difficulty, very high. Ding. New quest generated. Rescue Shelter 17. Recruit additional allies. Acquire military-grade weapons. Develop route plan through infected territory. Deadline, 14 days before Shelter 17 supplies are exhausted. I looked at my group. 6 people in a warehouse, 1 week into the apocalypse. The world was dead outside our walls. And somewhere in the darkness, 200 people were counting on us. Minsu was standing in the doorway. He had heard the radio exchange. His young face was set with an expression I had not seen before. Not fear. Not sadness. Determination. We are going to help them, right? He asked. I looked at my hands. They had finally stopped shaking. Yes, I said. We are going to help them. And that is where Lee Jae-hyun's story pauses. Because the rescue of Shelter 17 will be the most dangerous mission he has ever attempted. He needs more allies, more weapons, and a plan that can move 6 people through 8 kilometers of infected territory and back with 200 survivors. The military might be coming, or they might not. A hostile group of survivors in the West has been spotted taking supplies by force. And Minsu's ability is evolving into something that will change how everyone fights the infected forever. If you want to see what happens, subscribe now. The next chapter is the one where everything changes.